Welcome to the theater. For everyone's enjoyment, we'd like to remind you of the following rules. No talking. No smoking. No littering. No red meat. No freedom of religion. And remember, all marriages must be approved by the Department of Health. Failure to obey these rules will result in immediate loss of citizenship and deportation to the island of Los Angeles. Enjoy the show.
Your rules are really beginning to annoy me.
We ran a psycho profile on him using a database of 5 million sociopathic personalities. He hit the bottom of the curve.
Catches on quick, doesn't she?
Sound loves a winner.
Say we play a little Bangkok rules. Nobody draws until this hits the ground. You ready? Draw. You got a problem with that?
Welcome to They Call This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and other podcast services by searching They Call This a Movie. We are part of the Main Naming Network. To find more from us, check out the website at themaindaming.com or on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Main Naming. We are also now a proud member of Geek Vibes Nation. You can find them at gvnation.com. Welcome back to They Call This a Movie. This is Anthony Delvecchio. With me, as always, is Dan Aquino and Mark Myers. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hey, friends.
Hey, so watching this movie and seeing Peter Fonda and Kurt Russell, I guess, CGI surf, made me realize that I am not good at any quote-unquote white guy sports. Like, I'm terrible at hacky sack. I probably could never surf.
I did find it weird that they included the hacky sack scene at the end of this movie. That was a very strange addition. Kurt Russell and the bad guy to see who actually escapes.
Yeah, if you gave me 1,000 guesses of what the first white man sport Mark was going to mention, never would have guessed hacky sack.
I don't even. Is it a sport? It's an activity.
Yeah, it's kind of like
it's in California games, man. It's
like until you add the ultimate to frisbee. Frisbee isn't a sport either. It's like a thing you do, but then you do the ultimate. Yeah, so it's like unless there's an ultimate hacky sack, I don't know if it's a sport.
I think if you play, is it one of those things where if you play a hacky sack, you also play an acoustic guitar very poorly? Is that they've got to be intertwined, right?
I mean, yeah, sure. I'm sure whenever there's a group of hacky sack players, there's probably a friend of theirs who is like, I'm not down to hack today, hacky sack today, so I was gonna sit here and play Wonderwall.
Yeah, they always that's the that's what jazzes up the hacky sack players.
Mm-hmm. Of course, yeah. And then
they
maybe
hit that bridge.
But he's got a very important job, is playing Wonderwall, so all the babes could come over.
Yeah. Right, and then a lot of the guys are playing with their shirts off, so it's all by design.
So we're basically just talking about Eric Christian Olsen's character in Community, right?
That's 100% what it is.
Okay, well, we're not talking about hacky sack or Community or Eric Christian Olsen. We're talking about a different movie. But before we do, guys, what did you watch this week?
Ooh, that's a good question. I watched The Five Bloods.
Okay.
And man, like Spike Lee is on a roll, man. He, Black Klansman, The Five Bloods, just it's watching it as obviously a white guy, you're not going to get it. It's not going to have the same impact for us. But wow, I enjoyed it very much. I enjoy most of his movies, so this is, to me, he's just on a roll.
Cool. Anything else?
That's it, actually.
Okay. What about you, Mark?
I didn't really watch anything this week out of my normal stuff. If we want to have a standing thing that I watch 2 episodes of Adam 12 every week, we can say that because it's on in the background while I cook dinner. So.
And Mark is just surprising me Every time he opens his mouth today, he continues to surprise me.
It'll be a good episode. I'm 2 streams in. I'm raring to go.
So I did watch quite a bit because I kind of had a little mini vacation. I rewatched Knives Out. We watched today's movie. I watched Peanut Butter Falcon for the first time, which was pretty good. Shia LaBeouf is really good in it, as well as everybody in that cast is pretty good. Especially, it's got special appearances by Jake the Snake Roberts and Mick Foley, so I was excited to see those 2 guys pop up out of nowhere. I also watched The Five Bloods. Excellent. Messy, but like in the way Spike Lee movies are usually messy. I think him and Tarantino, they kind of are cut from the same cloth, and that they just have so many ideas that they throw against the wall to see what sticks, and most of it does. Some of it doesn't work, some of it does. But The Five Bloods was really good. Enjoyed it a lot. And then I watched a documentary on Shudder called Horror Noir, which kind of traced the role of African Americans in the genre of horror, which was very interesting. It was just kind of something I threw on while I was doing other things, but I found it fascinating. It started from like Birth of a Nation up through Get Out. Really kind of eye-opening, kind of interesting discussion. But yeah, that's kind of what I watched. I can't remember anything. I started after The Five Bloods, I started rewatching Apocalypse Now for the first time in like 10 years. It kind of made me start watching, but I never finished it. But yeah. But besides that, this week was Mark's week to pick a movie. So Mark, you wanna introduce?
Yeah. So this week I chose Escape from LA. For a couple reasons. One, we had spoken about me possibly watching Escape from New York in the last episode. So it made me, when I went to search that on Amazon, I saw that LA was there, and I was like, that's probably a better movie for the podcast. Because in a slightly personal story, I saw this movie in theaters because it was a few months removed from when my parents separated. So my dad was doing that thing where he gets you for the day and goes, let's go to the movies. I don't know what else to do with you. You're 12, like it's winter or whatever it was. I forget. I don't know. Let's go. And he was like, I liked this movie when I was younger. Kurt Russell was in it. He was in New York. It's a sequel. Let's go see it. And then we both walked out. He was apologizing the whole time home. I promise the other one was better.
I let you down again. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, so that was my memory of this movie. I didn't remember most of it. The 2 things I did remember going in, and we'll get into it, was the basketball thing.
Yep.
And the really dumb hang gliders at the end. Those are the
that
2
was
things
a surprise.
those are the 2 things I remembered going into the movie. The rest of it, I had no idea. There's a part in the very beginning that I'll get into that I probably noticed, and I don't know if you guys notice. It's more on the video game side, but when we get to that part, I'll point it out. But yeah, this was taking an 11, 12-year-old, or wherever I was at the time, to see this rated R movie in the theaters. It's sort of like a, hey, sorry I'm not around as much, sort of, and then just being another sad moment.
So now this whole podcast is going to be marred by that story.
No, I laugh about it because it was just funny the way, like, he thought that this movie was going to be this great epic thing. It was the first time I'd seen another person get excited to take me to see a movie or go to a movie and then it suck and just be like hoping I don't hate them the whole way home.
Yeah, this is the first time I've ever seen this, but John Carpenter's Escape from LA, directed by, I'll give you one guess who directed it.
John Carpenter?
That's right. Co-written and produced by Deborah Hill and Kurt Russell. Special mention to Deborah Hill because she's kind of been getting her due, unfortunately posthumously, but I think it was after the Halloween podcast that came up with Amy Nicholson, who hosted it a couple years ago. Deborah Hill has kind of been getting more attention of how important she was to John Carpenter's career, as well as like the genre of horror. And she's also a Philadelphia native. She was born in Haddonfield, New Jersey, of all places. Just a stone's throw away from myself and Mark.
But
grew up in Philly. Yep, she's from here. Grew up in Philly. And she produced this as well as a number of John Carpenter's bigger movies. Halloween, of course, Halloween 2, and she was one of the spearheads in front of Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, is one of the movies we've already covered. A favorite of ours, as well as Escape from New York and a bunch of other movies. She will be missed. She was an excellent producer and kind of a trailblazer for women producers in movies. But this is also Kurt Russell's, I think, only screenwriting credit. But it stars Kurt Russell, Steve Buscemi, Peter Fonda, Cliff Robertson, AJ Langer, Valeria Golino, Stacy Keach, Pam Grier, and Bruce Campbell. Mark, we've already talked about where you're coming from this movie, and Dan, where are you coming from with this movie?
Okay, so I had never seen Escape from LA, but I had seen Escape from New York. Now, to kind of juxtapose Mark's story, my father had seen Escape from New York as well, and he told me never watch Escape from LA because it's terrible. So you only watch Escape from New York. So in my mind, I thought it was like, well, he grew up in New York. That's probably why he liked it so much more than LA. But being a good boy, I heeded his warning and I never watched it. Like, yes, Dad, you're not watching Escape from LA, are you? No, I promise. All right.
No, I'm watching porn, I swear.
Good boy. No, yeah, he always told me how bad Escape from LA was. And so yeah, I never really had a desire to watch it, but now I'm kind of sad that I didn't watch it as a kid, because I feel like I could have really gotten a head start on what I wanted to say about it. It's pretty silly, and it's really like harmless silly, and I think the problem with Escape from LA was they made this entirely too late in Kurt Russell's career. I think he was more on the downswing. He wasn't nearly as big, and yeah, I'm not really excited that I got to see it, but you know what, I could just cross it off the list. It's one of those movies where it's whatever, it's there, it exists.
Sure. Yeah. I'll regale another story. My father did not teach me the ways of Kurt Russell when I was a kid. So if Escape from LA ever came on, he was probably like, I don't know, some movie. I didn't go see this in theaters. For some reason, I have this really random memory of it must have been like Peter Fonda on Letterman setting up the clip of him saying, "Oh, tsunami's coming, baby. You're gonna roll through this," shit like that. And I don't know why I was 11 years old watching Letterman and Peter Fonda on there, but I specifically remember that scene and that scene alone, because I had never seen this before. But yeah, it's super soft R. Mark, you surprised me again when you mentioned that it was an R rating, because I would have bet money it was a PG-13, because it's soft. It's really, I think that's one of the detriments to it. I think it, like, because you see, like, I mean, it's not like, oh, I just want to see tits and ass all over the screen, but like you see a whole bunch of hookers and prostitutes and like that, and it feels like a PG-13 movie. I can't remember anybody really cursing. I don't really remember that much blood. You see a whole bunch of people get gunned down, but you don't really see, they're faceless kind of goons that don't bleed out or anything like that. So I am surprised that it's an R rating. I've always had heard that this reputation of this movie was like god awful. It's not god awful. It's 1996 and it feels like a 1996 cheesy action movie.
It's not Halloween H2O.
No.
It's not quite Con Air.
Okay.
Right.
It's not quite The Rock, but it kind of fits in there. Maybe it's a B tier or C tier of those kinds of movies.
Yeah.
If you're compartmentalizing all action movies into this one, before Michael Bay really became Michael Bay and this huge spectacle of all that kind of stuff, it kind of fits snugly in those mid-90s kind of mid-budget action movies.
I can't think of the movie, but there's another character who's the original movie. Like I haven't seen Rambo 2 in a while, so I don't know if this comparison would work. But there's some well-known character where the first movie is like really like gritty and dark and like very violent, and as Escape from New York is in terms of And then this one, it just basically they're making a joke about Kurt Russell's character throughout most of this movie. But I don't know if like that can like change in tone. From what I remember of Escape from New York, the one time that I've seen it, was what I noticed the most in this.
It's kind of rehashed essentially. Escape from LA from Escape from New York. In Escape from New York, they put in, I think it's like a bomb essentially into Snake, and they say you have X amount of time to retrieve the president.
Right.
And if you don't, you blow up. In this, it's a virus. So, it's just rinse and repeat. And I agree. Escape from New York is grungy. It's dirty. It's dark. That was an R-rated movie. And because it used its cursing liberally, if I remember correctly. Like in this one, you maybe get a few F-bombs here and there. Like, what is it? You only get one for PG-13, right?
Yeah.
So maybe there might be like 5 or 6 in this. Very light usage of cursing, but yeah, it's such a weird drop, and it came out 15 years later. That's a huge drop.
Yeah.
You're not
16 years later.
Yeah, you're not striking while the iron's hot there, man. This is a movie that should have came out in 84, 85 at the latest.
Yeah, I would say like this should have been made in the 80s. Like once it hit
100%.
1990, it was like, oh well, window is closed. Right. 1989 would have been perfect. Getting in right before Batman 89.
Yeah. And again, you have Kurt Russell, who he's a huge action star in the 80s. And in the 90s, he did like Universal Soldier. And he didn't really do too much. He was more, I think he was doing comedy at that point. Right? He did Captain Ron in the 90s. So his star. I like Captain Ron. So
I mean, he did Tombstone. I think
that's true. When did Tombstone come out? I mean, that was 93, 94?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I don't think he had a whole lot of star power in 96, like in the late 90s. But
maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, this movie, it definitely owns the cheese that you were talking about, Ant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This movie's pretty prophetic, too, with... they talk about an engineered virus and then and him walking into a police state. It was kind of like, oh man, it's a little on the nose for what we're going through right now.
It's a little more on the nose than I thought it would be. I thought this New York would have been the closer one, but
yeah, no. We're just talking about cops. A fascist president that decides he's going to be president for life and creates a police state in and around Los Angeles and all of the United States, because we find out that they've outlawed all the fun stuff. No drinking, no smoking, no drugs, no fucking if you're not married, all that kind of stuff that makes life worth living.
No red meat.
No red meat.
That's a good thing.
Dan was like, "All right, when do we do this?"
I'm moving there. but wait, so you can't have red meat, but everything else is okay?
Yeah.
That's very weird, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you're asking, because I'm just saying that everything else has been outlawed.
Well, no, like every other type of meat, I mean. So you can't have red meat, but you still have pork and chicken.
Yeah, I mean, I guess pork is the other white meat, so yeah.
Right. I don't. It's just, you either go all or nothing, I say. You can't give me this half-ass red meat.
I mean, I think in the 90s, like, cutting out red meat was in fashion, sort of. It's like, oh, well, you got to keep your cholesterol low. That red meat'll kill you. So that's probably like tapping into something from the 90s that we forget about. Because we were just wee youngins that didn't give a shit about cholesterol.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we were usually just stuffing pizza and candy down our face regardless, so.
I mean, I still do that, but.
I was like, what?
You're right. It was kind of weird how, I mean, this movie is set in 2013, so it wasn't too far off.
Nope. Just a few short years earlier.
Yeah, 8 years.
Yeah, not too far off. And did they know that LA is slowly sinking into the ocean anyway? Like the West Coast is slowly sinking?
I think that was sort of a thing from the 90s, if I remember correctly. Yeah, like after the earthquakes and stuff. Yeah. It feels something like from the 90s.
Right, because I'm going to say if he figured that out in 96, like, damn, man, someone's got to tap into him and see what else he knows.
I mean, Demolition Man was sort of had kind of the same idea, as well as what was the other one we saw?
Double Dragon. Double Dragon could be from the same universe.
I wanted to make a joke about, I wanted to make a meme about how the cops from Demolition Man are really going to happen in our future, where they have no idea how to handle violence at all. It's just going to be Rob Schneider like cracking wise while bad things are going on. That's essentially, we're going to see that eventually, I think, in our lifetime.
We'll talk off air about what we are seeing right now on Twitter on videos of how police react to violence, but we will not go into that on this one, so we'll just kind of move right past and say this movie got a 5.8 on IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes score of 5.4%, budget $50 million, and box office $25 million. So it made half its money back.
Oh man,
it's a tough one. I wonder if this is like John Carpenter's biggest loss. I didn't look that up.
I wonder if it would have been PG-13 if it would have made its money.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's fair.
Yeah. Because in the 90s that was a big thing, I think, wasn't it? That's where, I mean, in the 80s you could kind of get away with it for an R-rated movie.
I mean, just in general, I think, when you have an R-rated movie, you've already cut into your box office.
Yeah, for sure.
That's why all these remakes of horror movies try and be PG-13, or that run of them, like Prom Night and all that kind of bullshit.
This movie definitely had a lot of things going up. The deck was stacked against it for sure.
Yeah. I think its reputation precedes it a little bit. I think it's fine. It's a fine movie. It's not great. Yeah. But it wasn't like abysmal. But you guys want to get into the plot?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Dan, what do you got for us?
So, as you all know, I like to plug our good friend Tia and her podcast, Top 10 with Tia. It's a podcast where Tia and her friends get together and discuss the top 10 lists of the week. So, anywhere from top 10 directors, top 10 villains, top 10 heroes, you name it, they cover it. So she's a good friend of the podcast. Like I said, she's on Geek Vibes Nation, so go check them out and you'll be able to find her podcast along with a bunch of other excellent podcasts.
I am looking forward to the top 10 moments of John Wick, since she has now gotten into that series. So
yeah, about time.
Yeah, check that out. Or by the time this comes out, it'll probably already be up. So take a listen to that. And we're going to get into the plot. But before we do, we're going to take a couple of minutes to listen to some messages from friends of the podcast. So we'll be right back.
Hey everyone, this is Steve.
And this is Adam.
And we're part of the Hop Nation USA podcast,
Pittsburgh's #3 craft beer podcast.
Join us every Friday for new beer reviews.
We'll talk about the news, history, and homebrewing.
Plus, we'll sit down with the best brewers and industry personalities that'll have us.
So whether you're a casual drinker, a hazy boy hophead,
or even if you're a whale hunting cellar hoarder,
just search Hop Nation USA on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher and join the nation.
Oh hi, didn't see you there. It's me, George, from the best little horror house in Philly, the show where we talk about the best horror movie ever made, according to our guest at least. We've talked about groundbreaking classics like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Alien, but we've also got a lot of great ones coming up, including some very fun guests like Len Kabaczynski of Swamp Zombies and Red Letter Media fame, Caroline Williams, the star of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and Chase Williamson from John Dies at the End. So make sure you're subscribed to the best little horror house in Philly, and I'll see you boils and ghouls over there.
And welcome back. And now it's time to get into the plot of Escape from L.A. We open on some credits that seem like they just took them from Escape from New York or The Running Man. With some green lines, like some sort of 1980s sonar system. And then we get a on-screen 1998. We get a female voiceover that says LA has been ravaged by crime and immorality. So LA, which leads to the United States to create the National Police Force. And then we get presidential candidate Uncle Ben is some sort of televangelist. And he's been predicting that an earthquake will ravage the city. And sure enough, 2 years later, it comes true. A 9.5 earthquake on the Richter scale basically decimates all of Los Angeles. Buildings, freeways collapse, huge tidal waves hit the city, and then after the earthquake, the Constitution, I guess because President Uncle Ben figured it out. He's given a lifetime term as president. And then he moves the White House to Lynchburg, Virginia, where he's from. And they decide that the island of Los Angeles is no longer a part of the U.S. and is now a deportation point of the undesirables. The U.S. police force controls the island. A wall's built around L.A. And if a U.S. person loses citizenship, they are deported there.
So it's essentially Australia.
Yep, it's like in Australia.
Yeah.
If we're doing anything amoral.
Yep.
Like very vague.
How quickly would we be there? I know I would be there very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it just depends on how sneaky we are about the things that we like doing.
The government would just look up my search history and like, oh, we need to send him to L.A. with you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta have my lucky strikes, man.
My lucky strikes.
We flash forward to 2013, the future, and police control the news and the border. It's like a pure fascist's wet dream. Snake Plissken, the hero from the original film, gets arrested for gunfighting for profit. We see a bunch of people that they declare the trash being ushered through the deportation process while Plissken gets escorted personally by a guard. As he walks through, one of the guards scrapes his hand with a nail and then leads him into a processing room. While he's in the processing room, Commander Malloy shows up, played by Stacy Keach. He comes in to talk to Snake, and Snake already knows that there's something that they need from him. The female officer Brazen shows Snake footage of Utopia, the president's daughter. Utopia has stolen a prototype unit from a government facility, and then she hijacks Air Force 3 and attempts to overthrow her own father.
I think we had this discussion off podcast, but Utopia is played by AJ Langer, and it's one of those things where I had to go through her IMDb profile to tell you where you knew her from. Mm-hmm. But when I went through it, she's one of those actresses that hasn't done a lot, like high profile or anything, but she's been in one or two episodes of a lot of things we watched. Like she was in like Wonder Years, Drew Carey show, things that were popular around there. So when I saw her pop up in this movie, I was like, oh, this is about the right time frame. She's cashing in on that My So-Called Life money that was going around, trying to be like, I'm better than that Claire Danes.
She's pretty bad in this movie. Was she bad in those other things?
She's good in My So-Called Life, but not in anything else, basically.
Fun fact, Kate Hudson was at one point considered for the role of Utopia, as obviously she is his stepdaughter?
I want to say daughter. Isn't
See,
it
it's
his daughter?
Weird because they're life partners, right? So they've never him and Goldie Hawn never married. So it's like the names are all over the place because Wyatt Russell has his dad's name, but I'm pretty sure he's Goldie Hawn's kid too.
I think he kept the last name just for if you're trying to get into acting. Well, I mean, obviously he kept the last name because it's his dad, but where was Kate Hudson?
Kate Hudson, yeah.
Right. So I guess that's what the hell? Goldie Hawn, was it Goldie Hudson? I don't know.
No, it was so Kate Hudson and her brother Oliver Hudson were Goldie Hawn's kids, not
Russell's.
Not Russell's, but he helped raise them as his own.
Oh, okay. So there you go. Essentially, they are his kids. Mm-hmm. That's cool. So then, who did he have Wyatt with?
I believe that's Susan Hubley. They were born they married in 1979, divorced in 1983.
Okay.
She was an actress. She was in Escape from New York as Girl in Chock full of Nuts.
Oh, man. That makes total sense now. She was...
Yeah.
Who could forget that famous character?
Like she was in some Skin movies, though. Looking at the names of some of these movies. Vice Squad, Lolly Madonna, Triple X. What is this?
That was the original Vin Diesel movie.
Right, yeah. Yeah, this is a real movie. It's got Rod Steiger and Jeff Bridges in it.
Okay. Can I say I am this many years old when I found out that Oliver Hudson is Kate Hudson's brother?
There you go.
Is that? Yeah.
I mean,
knew them both separately. Had no idea they were related.
The amount of times I've thought about Oliver Hudson in my life is I could count on a single hand.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he was a thing.
Yeah, and
that's only years old.
It's only in the handful of episodes of Rules of Engagement I've seen.
I wouldn't have known who Oliver Hudson was if I walked over him on the sidewalk.
He was Kyle in Grown Ups too. Come on, man.
2?
Mark knows him from Dawson's Creek. I mean, that's what.
Exactly. Yes.
All
And
16
there was
episodes.
one other thing. I saw him in something that I was doing for. I'm gonna look it up while you're. But
was it Journey Back to Christmas? I know how much you love those Christmas movies.
For some reason, I want to say it was something like that.
So he has a lineage going. Kurt Russell.
Well, yeah. If you count Kate and Oliver, yeah, he's got 3 kids that are in Hollywood. I like Wyatt Russell a lot in things I've seen him in.
Yeah, he's solid.
I don't know if it's better or worse, but I probably have also known him from both Scream Queens and Nashville because I watched those first seasons. So
that actually doesn't surprise me, Mark. This was a podcast where you're going to surprise me, and those facts did not surprise me.
No, I'm like, if those surprise you, Ant, then I should just leave. Then you don't know me at all.
Good day, sir.
They believe Malloy and Brazen. They believe that Cuervo Jones, terrorists, had brainwashed Utopia by infiltrating her VR setup. Because she, after the backstory of her sister committing suicide or something like that, then her just getting lost in her VR world, and Cuervo Jones hacks it and basically brainwashes her in VR. So the plan, which basically it's the same exact plan from Escape from New York. The plan is for Plissken to go into LA to retrieve a black box from Cuervo Jones for a full pardon. If he doesn't do it, Plissken will die from an engineered virus, and that's why the guard scratched him. She infected him with the virus. And he tries to lunge at the president because he gets all mad, but they are all holograms. So basically, he doesn't have a choice. That's it. The black box is some sort of doomsday device where it sends an EMP that shuts off electronics, electricity, and you could pinpoint it, or you could shut down the entire world. That is basically the MacGuffin of this movie. Then we get a scene where Snake gets a whole bunch of weapons and equipment, and then a suiting up scene where he puts on all his cool black leather get up with his jacket, his famous jacket. So the plan is to bring Snake to LA via submarine and meet up with a rescue team member, the only one that's still alive.
So this is the part I want to jump in with the video game thing. I think it's known that in some way, or maybe not very well disguised, that Snake from Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear fame is probably based off Escape from New York, Snake Plissken, if not explicitly. The thing with this is I'm wondering, and for those of you out there that played Metal Gear Solid, which came out in '98, I'm wondering how much of the game was made by this point, because the opening of that game is Snake coming into the secret facility on like a torpedo that's sort of shaped like this submarine that he comes in on this, and that he is also infected with a disease that is the reason why he has to go stop the terrorists. Because they know how to, like, there's like those little things match up. And I was waiting to see if there was like something else, like where he lands is sort of like an underground facility and he takes an elevator, and I was waiting for that to happen. Until how he got out of this. But yeah, as soon as I saw that submarine, I was like, holy shit. I wonder how much of this Kojima stole to do this.
I bet the graphics on the PlayStation 1 were better than the graphics in the movie, because the graphics in this movie are atrocious.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
That is the one weak point. I mean, there's plenty of weak points, but that is an obvious weak point of this movie is the CG. Apparently, looking up in the trivia, like basically the animation team was the first time they were dealing with CG.
That's always good.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like it at all.
No. So this is everybody's first attempt, basically, at doing Hollywood level CG. So that's great.
It's perfect, because whenever when the director came in, like, what is this shit? They could honestly say, this is my first day on the job.
It's my first day.
It's my first. Oh, well, in that case, wait a minute.
That's our one.
Yep.
Quack, quack, quack.
Yeah, count it.
He's supposed to meet up with a rescue team member. They sent out a rescue team of like 5 or 6, and they all died except for one. The plan is for Snake to find him. Malloy tells Snake the mission also includes, if he sees Utopia, to kill her on sight. They don't want to spend any more taxpayer dollars on locking her up or whatever. And they give him 8 hours to complete the mission, or else something happens. I don't know what it is that
the disease kills him.
Well, the disease kills him, but they also the government also has a clock, a ticking clock. So we know that the government knows that he's not going to die. So there is some reason why they're watching the clock, and I don't remember what it is.
Maybe
it's the Cuba the
invasion.
Yeah.
The Cuervo Jones's team from Cuba is going to infiltrate Miami. That's what it is. Yeah. So they have 8 hours before that happens, and that's why Snake has the 8 hour timeline on his. So he gets shot off with a submarine as he heads towards LA, and he's underwater. He crashes through some buildings, passing by Universal Studios. Basically, half of LA is underwater.
Yeah. And then the ha 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 cackle out loud when a shark comes up and snatches at him when he passes by you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was a Universal film, so that also makes sense. Snake gets out of the sub and comes across some surfers. Supposedly Breckenmeyer is one of the surfers, but I couldn't really see him. And they don't take too kindly to him on the beach, as the old surfer tells him, so he leaves. And after a slow-ass car chase goes by, the main surfer, the old surfer, played by Peter Fonda, we finally get a good look at him, follows Snake, and Snake pulls a gun on him, and the surfer tells him that, hey, man, I'm not trying to kill you, I just recognize you, Zal, bro. And Snake asks him to point him in the direction of the Hollywood Bowl, so he does, and then Snake goes off.
And I think this is the first mention of the ongoing joke that people think he's taller.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't get it.
Is that a joke about Kurt Russell? Is he short?
He's like 5'10", according to his IMDb.
Okay.
So he's
I was
probably
wondering if it was like a sort of a little ribbing from John Carpenter or something.
Maybe.
Towards Kurt Russell.
That's kind of mean.
You know, that's what I thought in there. But also,
Kurt shows up on the set every day and like, hey, Kurt, you're short. Oh, come on, man. You don't have to keep telling me.
Just the character, Kurt. Just.
Right. That'd be great. So passive aggressive.
If somebody told you that there was an actor that played a older surfer in this movie, how many actors would you go through before getting the Peter Fonda?
I wouldn't even cast an old person as a surfer, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be maybe in the first 100.
Well, it's the funny thing about it is this is the first character that we meet who is essentially pointless to the plot and is a wasted character.
Yeah.
Because obviously Peter Fonda is a legend, so you would think he would have more of a pivotal role, but you'd be wrong.
Yeah, it's Peter Fonda's paycheck movie.
I mean, he was pretty old. He had to get scale. I don't know if Peter Fonda bought a beach house with the money that he made for the Tuesdays on set.
He had to make a mortgage payment that month.
Yeah, he has to support. Someone's got to support. Was Henry Fonda still alive at that point?
I thought you were going to say like a drug habit. I'm like, did he do it? I don't know. I don't know enough about Peter Fonda.
He had to support Jane. She's got,
yeah,
a lot in prison so many times. Where am I? He travels to the slums, which I guess is all of LA at this point. It's kind of really hard to say exactly where he is because these Hollywood movies, these LA movies are always just like so inside baseball with like people that aren't from LA aren't going to know the geography of it.
This is sort of like the red light district, essentially.
But it's like it's all garbage. He travels from one shitty place to another.
But they all seem to sort of have a distinct theme to them.
Mm-hmm. Like, I wish we needed a map.
That's a good transition.
He's following a tracker for the last remaining rescue team member, but then the rescue team member has already been killed and crucified. So some bald guy starts giving Snake shit, played by Robert Carradine, actually. It's a little cameo. But Snake walks off and asks a prostitute to tell him where Cuervo Jones is, and she points him towards Sunset Boulevard. This whole movie is just Snake asking people where Cuervo Jones is, and then him pointing him in a direction so that he could ask another person the same question.
I did write that down, where this movie is essentially Snake being captured and then being brought to where he needs to go, and then finding he needs to go to another place, being captured again, and being brought to that place. So he gets around in this movie by just being captured, really.
Yeah, I was getting flashbacks of not just the first video game I mentioned, but just parts of the video game Shenmue, where you just walk around and ask people, and they go, yeah, it's that store there. You go to that store, like, nope, you have to go down here to that alley over there. And you just kind of keep walking around the town until you eventually find the end of the story. And that's essentially what this felt like. It was like a quest in a video game.
It's a whole big, your princess is in another castle.
Yeah.
So she points him towards Sunset Boulevard, and then the bald guy comes out and starts more shit with Snake, and then Snake just shoots him and walks away. Snake makes it to Sunset Boulevard, which is just a mess of hookers and dirty merchants at this point. And Cuervo Jones shows up in a convertible, addressing the crowd in some sort of processional, sort of like JFK in a convertible. Nobody shoots him in the back of the head, though. He's telling everyone to join him in Happy Land, Happy Kingdom, I believe it's called, for some sort of celebration. And Utopia is with him. He's got a processional full of motorcycle guys, and Snake steals one of the motorcycles from a gang member and then pursues Cuervo Jones. Snake takes a few guys out on bikes. Who was going to say something?
I was going to say, do you think they went through multiple redesigns to try and get as far away from Che Guevara as they possibly could with this character without getting sued?
They don't do a very good job of it then.
Yeah. I mean, he was dead already, so who's going to sue him?
Towing that line.
Yeah. Takes a few guys out on bikes, and he eventually gets cornered by a few of them. He tells them that they should face off, and they're going to do some Bangkok rules, which is nobody draws until a can hits the ground. So he throws a can up in the ground and then shoots them all as they wait for it to hit the ground. So Snake just straight up just murders 5 or 6 guys.
To be fair, they were going to murder him, so
that's true. It's true.
Listen,
but
man,
he is supposed to be our hero.
There's no laws in the streets, dude. All right.
Sure, but it's not very heroic.
No, it's not. But I was trying to, before he did that, like, how the hell is he gonna get out of this? Honestly, like, he had 4 guns trained on him. I was like, it's gonna take some slick moves, but it was really just a huge cop out.
He just straight up lies to them. They take him at his word. Oh, this guy's honorable.
Right. Yeah, never trust a guy in an eye patch.
I think we can trust Snake Plissken.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I guess it's one of those.
Not his best moment.
Right. But was it his best moment? No.
It's like if you're watching The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, and like Clint Eastwood just like, okay guys, on the count of 3, and then he just shoots them on 1. It's like, I don't feel great about that. It's like,
in real life, I would have tried to do something backhanded. Right? The odds are against you. You gotta cheat.
Dan, we've never accused you of being a hero.
Well, fair point. I would probably be one of the henchmen, first of all, but I would not take Snake Plissken's word for it. Like, what are you guys, idiots?
That motherfucker.
Everyone else is looking at the can, and I just shoot him. What's the matter with you guys?
Yeah, he'd be like, let's settle this. Bangkok, boom, right. Got him.
Hey,
Plissken, guys.
That wasn't so hard. Well, this guy was good.
So he shoots them all. They die. Some more gang members show up, and he goes and hides. But one guy, as they're looking for him, takes his jacket because he left it behind. And then Snake gets out of that hairy situation and comes across Maps to the Stars booth, and Eddie shows up, played by Steve Buscemi. Snake asks, he's basically just kind of a shyster guy trying to sell his audio tour of Maps to Stars homes. Snake asks him where to find Cuervo Jones, Jones's house, but Eddie just tries to sell him on a tour, and then Snake walks away.
Yeah, it's essentially felt like him walking around asking for Cuervo Jones. It would be the equivalent of walking around like the land of some dictator or despot and just going, where is this guy at? Where's that guy at?
Yeah.
It's like
you You know where you can find Castro?
Oh. Have you seen Fidel today?
Man, that's badass though, right? You're going into this guy's backyard and you're just brazenly asking where he is, not even trying to be stealthy about it.
So Snake walks on, and he comes across some other weirdos, including the foreign chick from Hot Shots with a Joan Jett wig.
Oh, that's a good one. She does kind of have that Joan Jett vibe.
Then these hooded figures, they catch Snake and the foreign chick with a net and bring him to some sort of weird makeshift hospital. And everyone has had terrible plastic surgery, too much, and they're doing weird experiments on everyone that gets brought to them, people that don't have weird plastic surgery. And then Bruce Campbell shows up looking like the villain from that kids show Lazy Town from the early 2000s.
I couldn't place it. I knew he looked like something.
He reminded me of the bad guy from The Mask when he puts the mask on.
Okay. Also, remember that Duracell family from the commercials?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's super creepy.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a blast from the past, man.
Yeah, that's Bruce Campbell in this movie.
Also wasted.
Yeah, very wasted. I mean, I'm sure all these are just like John Carpenter calling in favors. Hey, you want to be in a movie? I need somebody. Pay scale for a day. Show up.
And I also wonder if Bruce Campbell was like, yes, but you have to make me unrecognizable.
Right. I don't want my name attached to this.
I mean, what was he doing at this point? I mean, Army of Darkness, he had already been in at this point.
Yeah, I wasn't even saying like he was doing it to hide himself. Mm-hmm. Just like, yeah, John, I'll come in and do this. I just have one favor. Can you just do something crazy and just make me like not, look like me so I can maybe act weird or something? I don't know. Like,
well, he's like the king of camp.
Right.
Wanting to like sort of that idea where he like wants to do this outlandish character.
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish that they had reversed roles and had Bruce Campbell be the kind of like pseudo sidekick to Snake and not Buscemi, because I mean I like Buscemi as an actor, but I didn't like his character in this movie.
Yeah.
His shtick runs old real quick, and I kind of think that Campbell would have had a little bit more what's the word, like charisma to the role.
Yeah. And he wasn't really doing much at this point in his career. The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. was over in '94.
He had another TV show. Oh, what was it? He's like a swashbuckler or something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Jack of all trades?
Jack of all trades. That's what it is.
2000 though.
2000?
Oh man,
wow.
Is this like a syndicated show?
No, I think it only had like 2-3 seasons.
But it was like Xena and like Hercules, that sort of thing.
It didn't run as long, right?
But no, but some like start in syndication, like Baywatch, okay. Xena, Hercules. They weren't like produced by a channel. So they were produced, and then whatever affiliates wanted to buy it, they bought it. They usually wound up on UPN or WPIX. I
found out about this from my old boss, who's a huge Bruce Campbell fan. He was like, "You've never seen Jack of all trades? Look it up right now." I'm like, "Oh, okay." He got real defensive. He's like, "How could you call yourself a Bruce Campbell fan and not know about Jack of all trades?" Like, because I was a kid. I don't know. I didn't care about Bruce Campbell in 2000.
Sir, this is a Wendy's.
I'm trying to work right now. Please stop yelling at me about Bruce Campbell.
Oh, man. So he wants to do some surgeries on Snake. Specifically, he wants to take his eye. And Snake manages to spit poison dart into Bruce Campbell's head and takes him hostage. And then he tells him to also release the foreign chick. So they escape down into the sewers. They walk through the sewers a bit. She says she knows them like the back of her hand. And once they get out, she tries to come on to him, but he hands her a gun and leaves her behind. She literally has no point in this movie.
No. It would have been better if he just left her behind. That would have, because he's the anti-hero. Right? Like, oh, Snake, take me with you.
Right.
No.
And that would kind of parallel Escape from New York, like Adrienne Barbeau. She eats it in that movie.
Right.
It made a lot of sense. Yeah. So, yeah, once they get out, she tries to come on to him. He leaves her behind. He walks into a junkyard, and she catches up to him. And then she talks about how she was brought to L.A. when they made being a Muslim a crime. Man, sounds familiar.
John Carpenter.
He made
prophetic.
They Live too, man. He knew what the fuck was going on.
Yeah,
He still does. He's still alive. John Carpenter.
He's got like one of those he's got one of those Palantirs from Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
And he looks in his crystal ball like, oh man, you guys are not gonna like what happens in 8 years.
And then she talks about how she likes it in LA because she has more freedom than she would in the other US. And then she gets shot by a roving gang and dies.
It's great that we get character backstory for this character for just immediately her get shot and killed.
Yep. And like there is no point to it.
Is the gang that's supposed to make this place dangerous just a bunch of preteens? Was that the joke?
Oh, they're like triads, aren't they, or something like that? They're Asian gang.
Yeah, I mean that's where Hershey is. She joins up with the Saigon Dragons or something like that.
Yeah. I like their little roadster that they have, the car with the flames on it, because that's 100% what triads would drive.
Yeah,
gotta be inconspicuous.
Right.
The gang leaves, and then Eddie shows up and tells Snake to get in. He's like, "I'm saving your life, bro." And then Eddie tells him he's bringing him to Cuervo Jones's house, and then shoots him with a knockout dart. 2 of them, to be exact.
And gives a villain speech for some reason.
Yeah. Snake comes to in an underground bunker where Cuervo Jones, Utopia, and some of his cronies are. A guy that used to work with the CIA, played by that guy from Seven, who fucks that chick with the crazy dildo. Talks about what's in the black box, which is basically a doomsday device, as we covered, an EMP device that could pinpoint a pulse to shut down an entire country. And the president says that Plissken is dead, so they should just burn LA to the ground, basically. And Malloy says they can't do that because if Cuervo has the chance to use the black box against the U.S., he would take it. And they'd shut down the entire country. Cuervo then addresses the president via a live feed and uses the black box to shut down the power to the Capitol.
The weirdest part about this scene is that they made a point to make Snake run on a treadmill in the background of the shot.
Yeah. It is kind of weird. They don't really address it.
Right, and then it's done after the scene. Like, I thought, don't you think that they would keep him on the treadmill throughout? Yeah. Like, this is your torture now, Snake. You're going to run on the treadmill till you die. Like, nope, we're just going to take you off it right away.
Yeah, especially with what comes after this. You would think that they would have wanted to keep him on there longer.
It's not like running fast. It's just, kind of...
It's a brisk walk.
Yeah. It's like, oh, we're going to tire you out very slowly.
I was going to say, he was basically on, like, trying to get out of the rain pace. Like, here, this is annoying. Just want to walk a little faster.
Yeah, Stacey Keach's character going, is that Snake?
I know that one-eyed
He's
guy.
Alive.
His one weakness, treadmills.
And then they try to deliver the line that they think is badass, where the president goes, well, he's caught. He's a POW. He can't do anything to help us, but he's still alive.
Right.
Dun, dun, dun.
He's been dead plenty of times, sir.
Yeah.
Cuervo then demands a private helicopter by 5 p.m. or he'll shut down the U.S. So that's his demand. And then Snake gets us ushered into the Rose Bowl. Cuervo has set up a bunch of life and death games for his prisoners to play. It's really weird.
Yeah, this was the scene I remembered from my first ever viewing of it.
Yeah. So Snake, for some reason, has to play basketball and score 10 points without missing a shot. There are also some other rules about 10-second shot clock. He's got to keep going from one end to the other. He can't miss.
And he has to get the shot off before the shot clock.
Yes, he's got to get the shot off before the shot clock. So we have to watch Kurt Russell pick up a basketball, and it's obvious he has not dribbled very often. It's not Kurt Russell's first sport, everybody. He played minor league baseball when he was younger, but this might be the first time he's ever tried to play basketball. But to his credit, he practiced a lot during filming, and he actually made all the shots that he is shown hitting.
Really?
Even that full court shot?
Yep.
Wow.
I wonder how many times that had to be.
Maybe it was an entire day of filming.
Yeah.
Regardless, that is very impressive.
Yeah. I was going to make a joke that you could very much tell that it was him just by his jump shot. One time he takes the jump shot, I'm like, that looks like a guy that hasn't done that much.
I go ahead, Ant.
I was just gonna say I was tipped off by the dribbling because like he
Yeah.
didn't know what to do with his left hand.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the
Like,
person when they cut to the jump shot, I'm like, oh, they'll just put a stand in and just make this look like a normal jump shot. Then he does the weird cocked off to the side of the head, sort of just pushing the ball towards the basket. I'm like, no, that's still Kurt Russell.
he dribbles too high.
Yeah.
The ball comes up too high. Anyway, I was gonna say, I know what it was like. Like I peaked in high school when I hit a half court shot in gym, and like everyone freaked out. That was like my career defining moment. Even to this day, it might be like the best moment of my life. So I can only imagine it could have been 100 shots and he made it. That is still one of the greatest things ever. So I already respect Kurt Russell, but now he's gained a little bit more of my respect. And this movie has gone up one notch just for that.
There you go. And long story short, Snake succeeds. He's the only person to ever do so. He scores all those points, but Cuervo won't honor the deal, and he just decides that they're just going to kill Snake anyway, which is just, I don't know, why all the foreplay?
I was waiting for a very Rocky IV moment to take place here when the crowd started chanting Snake, Snake, Snake. They were all going to turn on Cuervo.
Yeah. So Snake goes to make a break for it. And apparently Isaac Hayes is one of the guards at the basketball court.
Is he that?
He's uncredited.
Is he the big guy standing there that won't let him out the door?
I think so. He's the guy that looks like Isaac Hayes.
Yeah.
But then
That's a good description.
An earthquake hits, or at least an aftershock, and everybody goes running, so it allows Snake a chance to escape. In the melee, Snake kills a few guys and then jumps Cuervo and takes the black box. He escapes down the sewer, and Utopia and Eddie follow him. Utopia asks him to take her with him. She's basically realizes that Cuervo is not the guy that she thought he was, nor is her father, and she feels like Snake. She's got a lot of daddy issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's jumping from.
Stay away from that Snake.
Jumping from Cuervo to Snake, you know, she's got a lot of things she needs to work out.
Oh.
And
yeah, only one guy in this movie will take that at any cost, and that's stars to the map to the stars, Eddie.
Yeah.
And Eddie will deal with that.
He'll throw caution to the wind. Get hit, stick his dick in crazy. So Utopia asks him to take her with him, and Eddie shoots Snake in the leg, and he drops the black box, and he gets swept away with the current. Eddie picks up the black box and grabs Utopia and brings her back to the surface and gives the black box back to Cuervo. Snake gets washed up to where the surfer is, and the surfer helps him dress his gunshot wound. And then the surfer tells him that he needs to meet up with Hershey, who runs another gang and hates Cuervo. Then a tsunami comes, and the surfer and Snake ride it with surfboards.
Yeah,
it's a good thing he brought
best
two.
CGI in the movie.
CG is superb here. It's flawless as far as I'm concerned.
Don't change a thing.
Cut, print, you got it right on the first one.
I wonder how much convincing it took to get them on those boards and just like, all right, man, I know neither of you have ever surfed, but just try to make it realistic. Like, come on, you can't think of any better way to get us from point A to point B. Well, I can, but that's for the end of the movie. Oh, all right.
What's even crazier is that Kurt Russell co-wrote this movie, and he's not even playing to his strengths. It's like, what if I played basketball instead of, I played baseball in the 70s.
Maybe he wanted to be cool.
Maybe.
I could still hang. I'm hip.
Hello, fellow kids.
I was in
Hello,
the
fellow
thing.
teen.
Hello, fellow teens, right.
Yeah, so as they're riding their surfboards on the tsunami wave, Eddie's driving alongside the tsunami, and Snake jumps onto the car, and he tries to shake him off, but eventually Snake is able to knock Eddie out, and he takes the car, and he takes Eddie hostage. Tells him that he needs to go find a woman, someone named Hershey, and Eddie kind of points him in the direction, and at this point we realize that there is 1 hour left on the countdown.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 1 hour left in the movie.
Oh, no.
So, oh, God.
I think it's a little less, but it's around there. Snake and Eddie arrive at a wrecked ship, like it's a huge oil tanker, I think.
Isn't it the Queen Elizabeth?
I think it's Queen Mary.
The Queen Mary? Okay.
Yeah, I think they zoom out and show that.
Okay. So Eddie does all the talking and introduces Snake to Hershey, played by Pam Grier, and Al Leong is there.
Yeah, the quintessential
famous
80s henchman
from Die Hard, and he was Genghis Khan and Bill and Ted.
Was
so
he in Double Dragon?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is Double Dragon? So he's because he's the one, like, they drive past him when he's like hitchhiking at the end, right?
Correct.
He's got like a cardboard.
He's one of those Robert Patrick's two henchmen.
Yeah. I was trying to think of what movie that was. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. Yeah.
So he's a two-time, they call this a movie.
Yeah, at least. So Snake knows Hershey back when she was a man by the name of Carjack Malone, and they fixed the audio so Pam Grier sounds like she is a man. Not exactly the wokest part of this movie. Snake wants to make a deal with Hershey if she helps him get the black box from Cuervo Jones. He says that he'll help her get out of L.A., and anybody that helps him, the government's supposed to pay them 1 million bluebacks. It's a special kind of currency. I don't know what's so special about it because they never go into it, but it's different than the greenbacks they all have. But then, so they decide to help, and then they're just like, well, how far is he? And Eddie's like, well, we can't get there in less than 2.5 hours, and we don't have that kind of time. So one of the henchmen then kind of longingly looks out at the Santa Ana winds.
The fires.
Fires, and they have to attack from above.
Oh.
Which apparently means, for all the soliloquy that he throws out on that, it means that they have to hang glide from the Hollywood sign.
That must have taken longer. It had to have taken longer. Because you're going to tell me these people know how to use the hang gliders perfectly?
And they had to get the hang gliders, too.
Right.
Like, oh, well, they're in storage. Shit. That's like 40 minutes away.
I was going to say, it's a half hour away. And we got to come all the way back to get the wind.
I knew these hang gliders would come in handy at some point.
You all laughed at me. You all said I was crazy. Hang glider Eddie.
Yep. So before they depart, Eddie mocks up a disc to look like the Doomsday device disc, and then they fly away on the Santa Ana winds.
What a weird sentence.
So what's sillier? Is the tsunami surfing sillier than this, or is this pretty silly?
I'd say the tsunami surfing.
Yeah, okay. The CG in that is what makes that sillier.
Because normal people, they hang glide, but you don't surf a tsunami.
And just hearing Peter Fonda explain to Snake how to surf.
And he gets it perfect the first time too.
Yep. Oh yeah. It's like definitely not like the first time I went skiing. That's for sure.
Right.
Last time.
That would have been great. He's like, how do I do this? And he just totally wipes out.
I can't get up.
And then he was also good enough to stay on the board to be able to jump onto the back of a vehicle.
Look, it's Snake Plissken, man.
Yeah.
With one eye, by the way. His depth perception is totally, skewed.
Yeah, so in Happy Kingdom, Cuervo is having a party with all his goons. The government helicopter shows up, and Cuervo's goons immediately take it over. President gets nervous and tries to get out of the control room, but Malloy won't let him.
The one thing about Happy Kingdom is I like the line when they're parasailing in and they see it from above, and I think Snake goes, "Is that what I think it is?"
Right. It's Disneyland.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's all they say. That's super
so the president, he gets word that Cuervo's forces are leaving Cuba, so then he goes to pray. Thoughts and prayers to the president in this trying time. The hang gliders arrive at Happy Kingdom, but they need a diversion, so Eddie crash lands in Happy Kingdom. Eddie tells Cuervo that Snake is coming, and then distracts Cuervo and grabs the black box, attempting to pull off the old switcheroo. And Cuervo catches him, though, and is about to shoot Eddie, but then Snake and Hershey's crew show up with hang gliders and start shooting everybody.
It's so corny. They just like fly by they're shooting. They're such easy targets.
It was so much better than I remembered.
I think I looked up I read in the trivia that this scene was inspired by the flying monkeys scene in Wizard of Oz.
Jesus.
That's not what you want.
I could have just made that up just now, but I'm pretty sure that's what I read.
Yeah, why not? We'll go with it for sure.
I believe that.
It's better than it was a fever dream.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell woke up in a sweat. Oh, I figured it out.
No, the props department just looked around and was like,
hang gliders.
Hang gliders? Can they come in with hang gliders?
Well, I want PVC pipe. We've got some canvas. Give us 25 minutes.
So I really wanted to jump out of the Goodyear blimp, but this will do.
So we get a whole bunch of shooting going on, and then Cuervo and Snake have a fist fight. Eventually, Snake knocks out Cuervo and is able to take the remote to the black box with him. Then Snake, Utopia, Eddie, and Hershey jump into the government helicopter to make the escape as Cuervo and his goons shoot at it. And Cuervo takes out an RPG, shoots it at the helicopter. Eddie shoots him, but Cuervo is able to get the shot off, even though he gets shot square in the chest.
Right. It's a huge gaping hole in his chest.
As the RPG hits the helicopter, Eddie jumps off the copter as it gets hit, but the copter catches fire. I lost track of Hershey at this point. Does she die?
Yeah, they're in the back. The whole back gets lit on fire.
Oh, that's right.
And her and her henchmen all get
Does
set
she
on
get
fire.
like a proper send off, or is just kind of like obviously she's dead now?
I think that she just dies, just like every other character that tries to help Snake in this movie.
Yeah, everybody that tries to help Snake just dies. The copter catches fire, but Snake is able to pilot it back across, back to the U.S. over the wall. Utopia jumps out. Before she does, Snake puts the remote in her pocket, and Snake crash lands the copter and manages to get out unscathed. Government police team shows up with the president, and Snake demands that they give him the antidote shot. And it turns out they were playing Snake for a fool. What he was dosed with was just a fast-acting flu, non-fatal. He'd be
it's just
better
a flu. I don't know what he was worried about.
Right. Yeah, right. 70,000 people only die from flu a year. Snake tells them that if they want the remote, then they have to come take it from him. The police show up with Utopia, and Malloy searches her and finds the remote Snake planted in her pocket. So he thinks he's figured out the old switcheroo that Snake tried to pull on him. And the president orders the police to take his daughter to the chair and tells his men to prepare to broadcast. Snake asks Malloy for smoke, and Malloy says that along with a bunch of other fun things, smoking is forbidden in the United States. And the president goes on television and tells the Cuban forces to stand down. They do not comply, so he plans to use the remote to turn off their power, which he really gives them like 3 seconds to comply.
Sir, they have not stopped yet.
Well, we gave him a warning.
So they don't comply, so he plans to use the remote to turn off their power, presses the button, but it turns out it's Eddie's Maps to the Stars tour. Once again, Snake pulled the old switcheroo on them. Yeah. It's a switcheroo after a switcheroo. President orders his forces to fire on Snake with the cameras broadcasting, but it turns out Snake is a hologram, just like they pulled on him. So he pulled the switcheroo on them.
So
switcheroos.
Too many switcheroos.
So it was in the moment when he goes to the podium where it pops off in my head, light bulb goes, oh, the fucking hologram thing. I ask you this every movie. With that, since they introduced that, would that have been Chekhov's gun? That it wasn't used?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's a foreshadow.
Yeah.
Yeah, foreshadow's probably closer. Yeah, they go, hey, this thing, and they lay out how it works, and then he supposedly loses it, and then he gets the jacket back at the end.
Right.
So it didn't pop into my head until like, how are they gonna? And then I think Stacy Keach, his character was going sort of looking back at Snake, and I'm like, and that's when it was sort of like, oh, that's what it's gonna be.
I was kind of hoping they just shot him dead.
That would be a crazy ending.
That would have been great.
That would have been like what the true end of First Blood should have been.
It's just Snake being super confident, like, go ahead, see if you can do it, and Stacy Keach just blows him away.
Yeah, he just turns around and points the gun 6 feet in the other direction.
Right. And then he's like, all right, Mr. President, go ahead, we're good here.
Now, there were alternate endings that I don't think they filmed, but they at least had a couple of ideas for. Hopefully I could find this quick.
And I love that the world code was 666.
Yeah, very original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it could only be 3 numbers, so they couldn't put the holy grail of 5-digit numbers on there.
69.
Or 2069.
Just in the trivia, the film could have had 3 possible endings. In the first, the Plutoxin 7 virus was no hoax, and the virus kills Snake. Second ending would have seen the president have the real remote control unit and Snake have a map to the star, Eddie's remote control unit all along, and the president with then shut down Cuba and Mexico. The third ending would eliminate Snake's usage of the hologram after switching the real remote control unit with Eddie's. Snake would ultimately be shot and killed as a result. So that was actually one of the possible endings. Interesting.
All very bleak.
A lot of those all those endings actually are kind of more interesting than the one that we are given.
I think either getting blown away or the toxin being for real would have been my go.
Yeah. This is definitely the more Hollywood ending.
Yeah. Did they think they were going to make an escape from PA, Philly?
Escape from Guantanamo Bay. Oh, wait,
right.
Someone else did that.
From what I've read, it seemed like, not necessarily in the trivia, but in other places, I think John Carpenter kind of begrudgingly made this movie. I don't think he was super into making it. Because he's notoriously not into doing sequels. So that's the reason why he didn't direct Halloween 2, among other things. So I can't really be 100%. I don't know the full backstory, but I feel like this is sort of his like Spider-Man 3 sort of. You're just kind of like, all right, well, I'm gonna make this, but
it's not gonna have
I'm gonna thumb my nose at you at the same time.
Right. Yeah, it would have been cool to have Snake bite the dust, I think.
Yeah.
Would you have kept him still pushing the button?
Yeah, maybe
getting blown away?
Yeah, maybe as he's dying, he hits the button.
Yeah, sure. I think we'll get to it in our normal end segment.
Snake shows he has the real remote, and then the president asks him what his plan is, and Snake is like, well, if I shut down Cuba, then you guys win. If I shut down you guys, then they win. Or I could just shut down the whole world. So he decides to shut down the whole world. Presses the button, shuts everything down, and everything goes back to the Dark Ages. And then Snake's hologram disappears, and he's just off kind of like 100 yards away. And he lights up an American spirit and looks into the camera and fades out. That's the end of the movie. That's Escape from L.A.
Not a good ending.
No. We talked about 3 endings that we probably would have liked more.
Yeah. The one thing outside of, I would have let him have one sidekick throughout the whole movie, rather than all these people that just ended up being useless. That's one way to fix it. And the other one would have been mixing a couple of the endings, doing the thing where the virus is real, but he pushes the button as it kills him, sort of thing.
Or what if he, when he goes over to LA, they all say like, oh, everyone there is immoral or whatever, and it's kind of a Demolition Man style where Dennis Leary and the underground dwellers are actually good people. They're not maniacs. So the people in LA are just, they're starving, they're sick, they need help, but they were just deemed enemies of the state or enemy of the country. So he kind of liberates the people from LA and leads them against the United States or something, or he kind of takes over LA and becomes their hero. Because you're just kind of recycling Escape from New York. You're not saving the president, you're saving the president's daughter, essentially. Yeah. Maybe make him more of a freedom fighter because he's always a lone wolf. So maybe he kind of finds a higher calling to his life. Or maybe he just puts on basketball performances 3 times a week. I don't know. It's just like, come see Snake Plissken as he hits full court shots.
It's tough. This movie is very episodic in terms of like he goes from A to B and then B to C and then C to D. And it's just one scene. Like a lot of his interactions don't really mean anything to anybody, like to the plot. So I don't know how you fix that. It's just kind of an entire rewrite, basically.
You make a 10-part miniseries where it runs in real time, like 24, and you just spend the entire 10 hours on the island doing the mission, but it's 10 episodes of a TV show. That
could work. Call. I could see that going.
Yeah. Starring Wyatt Russell. We can do that now.
Start Wyatt Russell.
I want Wyatt Russell to remake all of his dad's movies.
That'd be great. That'd be like how Disney is just remaking all their animated films as live action.
Exactly. Yeah.
As long as they don't do that with the Landises, because the Landises can, get bent.
I have no idea what that is.
Max Landis redoing all of John Landis's movies.
Oh, okay, yes. Okay, I thought that was a Kurt Russell movie. I was like, I've never heard of this movie.
No.
Does he need to murder 2 people as well?
Right.
To make that?
I mean,
listen, you gotta stay true to your dad.
I wouldn't put it past Max Landis.
Jeez.
I still laugh to this day thinking of that Twitter thing where the guy said that John Landis is the ultimate helicopter parent. And it still makes me laugh every time I think it.
The internet doing what the internet does.
Do you guys have anything else to add about Escape from L.A.?
Go see Escape from New York. Listen to my dad's warning.
Yeah. Don't try to make it up with your recently separated kid by taking it from LA. No, in all seriousness, Escape from New York's the better movie, and this would have felt better as the 3rd movie in a trilogy than the 2nd movie. You know, just the final burn off the character sort of thing. But yeah, it's one of those movies where if I don't have control over the TV and it happens to pop on TNT or USA, I'm not going to force them to change the channel. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of thing. Yeah. It's not that bad of a movie.
Yeah, but it'll be like 3 hours long and that.
Yeah. I mean, I had to watch Justice League on the TNT app, which had commercials on it, so I would never do that again with any other movie.
That's nuts. All right, you guys wanna plug your shit?
Sure. At the Aquino 122 on Twitter, at Stranger Damies on Twitter and Instagram. Come say hello. We're closing in on 800 followers.
Nice.
Yeah, we're getting there, man. Almost at the 1K. So, join the revolution, fellas. Friends. We don't have fans. We have friends. And, that's it.
So, and our other 2 podcasts, Stranger Damies airs every Wednesday on iTunes, Google Play, anywhere you can get your podcast, strangerdamies.podbean.com. We just finished up a session by the time you hear this. We got had an interesting battle in there and had some revelations on, certain things going forward with the plot. So be sure to check that out. And if this happens to be like we skip another week or something like that, just be sure to listen to the ones that have come in before this. Also, we got Game Vault Pod, airs every other Monday. So be sure to check that out. The most recent podcast we had was we reviewed the PlayStation 5 release, and EA had a thing, and probably have some thoughts on early hours of Last of Us 2. So be sure to check that out. And we'll be playing, doing our streams every Thursday, Friday, Sunday, and every other Monday. So just be sure to check that out. Everything is Game Vault Pod. So that's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch.
Okay. Yeah, and this is They Call This a Movie. You can find us at theycallthisamovie.podbean.com and on all podcast streaming apps. They Call This a Movie. Just search They Call This a Movie and we will pop right up. Find us on all social media platforms under The Main Damie, which is the main website. TheMainDamie.com is there for you. We got a whole bunch of articles as well as podcasts as we promote there. So The Main Damie is where you can find us on social media. We're also a proud member of Geek Vibes Nation. You can find them at gvnation.com on all podcast streaming apps at Geek Vibes Nation. Just search Geek Vibes Nation, they'll pop right up. And on all social media platforms, Geek Vibes Nation or GV Nation, Geek Vibes Nation is their social media. They got a bunch of great shows besides us. They got, as we mentioned, Top 10 with Tia, the Scene and Nerd, a whole bunch of other shows that I probably should have a list one day and just rattle them off. I'm sure they'd be happy that I just don't name 2 and then move on. But a bunch of great shows for whatever you're into, mostly geek stuff, but they do have some sports when sports is a thing that we are allowed to enjoy. But hopefully that is soon. And that's gonna wrap it up. I'm at Ant Delvec on Twitter. You can find me there. If you have any questions or comments, you want to suggest a movie for us to watch, you can hit us up at themaindamie@gmail.com. If you have the time, which I hope you do, go onto iTunes, give us 5 stars, give us a rating. It'll take you It'll take you 10 minutes, maybe even less. Give us a review. It really helps us out. It helps us get seen so we can open up to more audience members. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up. So the director of John Carpenter's Escape from L.A. is none other than John Milhouse Carpenter. I don't know if that's his middle name. Probably not. But for Dan Aquino and Mark Myers, this is Anthony Delvecchio telling John Carpenter, I'm going to apologize for this one. John Carpenter, please go fuck yourself.